The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by Draftkings Sportsbook. Download the app, sign up for Draftkings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. A chance for you to win $1 million too. We'll talk to you about that later. Yes, million dollars. And also brought to you by Touchstone Electric Fireplaces. Get 15% off by going to zerodeadbirds.com and using promo code TTP. You know how many of those fireplaces you could get for $1 million? Anyway, on the show today, our shit show of a team continues on their path to just making every offseason stranger than the one before. They fired Brett Brown, crushed him with leaks for 2 days before that. So we'll talk about our memories of Brett Brown. And then Elton Brand spoke today, and it seems like he is in charge. But Josh Harris is going to make a deep dive into the front office and see if there's anything wrong. So we'll talk about that as well.
Get out your magnifying glass.
And also, we will welcome, have we, I don't know that we've ever needed a guest more. Thea Gallagher is a Ricky listener, Sixers fan, also a clinical psychologist, an assistant professor at the University of Pennsylvania, and the director of the outpatient clinic at the Center for Treatment and Study of Anxiety. We need her. And we were talking on the last pod about like what joy there is in being a sports fan at all and why we do it. And I thought we could all use some professional help right now, especially from one of us. So I can't wait for Thea to join us. The Bark in the Park team is open. We're going to raise $10,000 for the Providence Animal Center. Raise $50, get the shirt. The shirt's fucking wild. Flames, skulls, dogs. Go to rightstoRickySanchez.com to sign up. Bark and Park is October 24th. It is virtual, but the money is real. And sign up on the YouTube. There's a YouTube version of this podcast every week. So if you don't just like listening to people talk, you can see them talk too. That is, you can write on this post on the website. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who is a basketball guy to balance out the analytics guys, Mike Levin.
Hello.
Hey.
I was late to this podcast because I was just running through some fake trades. I was sitting on my couch, got the iPad out, looking at contracts. We're there. I'm ready to go.
It's going to be a long. I mean, they had announced December, but it looks like the next season probably won't start till February or March. So this is going to we're going to pace ourselves. Mm-hmm. If you've been a guest on this podcast before, just get out your calendar, write something in. Yeah,
be near your phone.
Yeah. So I kind of want to do this like sort of in stages because I know it's all connected, but I think every part of it needs its just due. Like the Brett Brown part needs its just due. Mm-hmm. The Josh Harris statement needs its just due. The Elton Brand presser needs its just due. I feel like we got to talk about all of them. I wanted to start with Brett, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So I guess I would say that I was relieved when he finally got fired because it meant that I could be sentimental about him.
Yeah.
And I do think...
He also died.
Yeah, he also died, which is...
a lot of memorializing a living man.
Well, I just think, I mostly just want to talk about like the job he did here. Everyone said he was a great guy. He is a great guy. He took a lot of bullets for a lot of, for Sam, who we supported, Brett was out there on the front lines every day. Brian Colangelo, who was going to communicate with everyone more, actually tossed less than Sam Hinkie, and Brett was out there every day.
Man of action. Brian Colangelo was a basketball.
Yeah.
All the hits.
When Jaleel Okafor was speeding and fighting, it was Brett out there. Like, it was Brett for everything. Burnergate, it was fucking Brett. It was Brett, Brett.
Yep.
And
he's the just a real human punching bag for this team. Just kept putting him out front over and over again.
And by the way, you know, at one point in 3 consecutive seasons, he went from 10 wins to 28 wins to 53 wins or 52 wins, whatever it was. And he was like, because they couldn't see anyone else, he was a lot of times just the one that when they didn't succeed, he would get blamed. I guess what I would like to say is he always appreciated us and the group, like the fans, like in a very real way, which I thought was awesome. The 2 times he bought drinks, the time he showed up at the live pod to Stone Cold Steve Austin music. But all of that aside, I think he did this season aside, when everybody did a bad job. Mm-hmm. I think he did a really commendable, good job. And like, I think keeping things on, like, as everything was spinning out of control, he always sort of seemed on track. And, you know, I think not just keeping like things sort of together without falling apart in a basketball sense. I think before the roster upheaval started, I thought he like was a good coach that did a lot of good things. And I think he will get another opportunity to coach somewhere, and I'm glad for him to get that. But I'm glad we had him here. And I can't think of another person, another coach in the world who could have like survived all of this and gotten through it in the way that he did. So I appreciate having him. And without him, we like, I don't know that it's not like this thing ended up good so far, but I mean, it could have been a lot worse if there wasn't somebody in there who was stable and good. And I appreciate him.
Yeah, man. 7 years is a long time. And he is a really just a solid guy across the board. It was never really supposed to last this long.
No.
It was always the kind of thing where it's like, well, he's a good, developmental coach, comes from the Spurs system, install a culture, be very, kind of a rah-rah guy. Like that was the job description almost. And just like be cool with, handling the brunt of the abuse. And there's a lot of relitigating the process that is going on. I actually haven't weighed in on it, which I think is a good hold on my part.
Weighed in on?
The relitigating of the process that people insist on doing. But Brett, it's tough because he was, he can both be like a good guy that we like and admire and appreciate for what he did for the team, the organization, us specifically, whatever. But also, like we be really frustrated this year specifically, but also a couple in the past few years as well. Be frustrated with how he coached the team and how he was slow to make adjustments and all that stuff that we know. And there's a lot of talk about like accountability. Josh Richardson had a quote basically saying like he's a good guy, but like he's got to work on that, which is not as bad as the what some of the guys were saying about Jim Boylan in Chicago. Who had the quote where it's like he's going to work on a lot of things, like Wendell Carter.
Well, they hated him.
Yeah, they hated him so much.
Yeah.
So it was a different situation where like I think the guys on the team liked Brett personally, but also were pretty fed up with how things were going. Since Jimmy got there in sort of a
shocking how that happened.
Shockingly for you.
It was wonderful. I wonder why those two things were coincident.
But I'm glad he got let go. I'm glad he made a very classy, true to form character statement. Not thanking Brian Colangelo, really solid little carrot for us.
Yeah. The 102 players also carrot.
102 players, name them all.
He basically took Hinky's 13-page letter and did 2 graphs.
Yeah.
Like,
And
he put the jabs
honestly,
in
good
there.
cuts. Good cuts. You could tighten that thing up a little bit, Sam. So Brett did the trick. Sam, usually the not as long-winded guy that Brett is, but in writing, Brett kept it brief. It's time to move on, and it was a good 7 years, and it was a very memorable 7 years. It was crazy, and most of the things were not his fault. But when I look back at the Brett, regime, it was certainly a impactful regime
Yes.
rather than the every other coach for the Sixers of my lifetime, which was just pain and annoyance.
Oh,
and
yeah.
general dismissal.
Fucking, Fred Carter and who's the guy the Princeton offense guy that I
Eddie Jordan, Tony DeLeo,
yeah,
Jim O'Brien.
There's so many of them.
Yeah, Mo Cheek's a good guy, but
Wait, Chris, fucking, what's his name?
Ford.
Yes.
Yeah, he was bad. Larry Brown, who I hate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Doug Collins, of course.
Yeah.
Did I say Tony DeLeo? He really left a mark. It's a bad list. It's a bad list of very mediocre coaches. And Brett, yes, he has one of the worst winning percentages of all time. I hope he wears that like a badge of honor.
I bet he does.
But he also two back-to-back 50-win seasons, which is the first time that happened in this franchise since the
Iverson.
No, before they didn't do back-to-back with Iverson, I don't think.
Oh, really?
No, they didn't do it. It was like high 40s for a lot of those years. I think they only won 150 plus in 01, maybe like a couple every other one. But, good. Just the reason that they got good is because of the 2 guys that we hit on in the draft, and Brett did his job with those guys until he didn't. I know it's time to move on, but I feel sad for him. We got this. I'll hold it up. I've taken a picture of this, but sitting on my desk is the Brett Brown letter he wrote to us and the lottery party. Come on now.
Wait, so a funny story, and by the way, wait, hold on. The notes, of course. The notes.
Process Hall of Fame, man.
Process Hall of Fame. What should we?
And he was touched by that, and that's a nice thing.
Should we send that banner? I feel like we should send the banner to him.
I assumed we already had.
No, come on. We have to hang it at other events.
Sure.
So last year we sent out like New Year's cards to people, and this year I got them made too, and they had me, you, and Brett on the front, and it said, "To 2020, nobody's going to be on the hot seat." And like 2 weeks into January, I was like, I'm not going to send this.
Yeah, right away.
So I have a whole box of them in the basement.
Yeah.
I feel like we should auction them. So thank you, Brett. I'm glad that they classically did it at 4:59 p.m. after burying you, even though
many. How many leaks do you need? Like, they can't just recycle the ones from last year. They have to keep and here's more of the. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I mean, the only reason that Trevor Booker didn't work here is because Brett Brown's commitment to analytics instead of the game.
That's it.
Fucking crazy.
It's the analytics. That's the thing that held him back.
Yeah, it's always been the analytics.
Jesus Christ. There's so few, like, every argument is like one of like 2.5 arguments.
Yep.
People are dumb.
Okay, so before we get to the brand presser, when we brought on Zoe to write the newsletter, it was to do one thing: make money. No, I'm just kidding. We brought Zoe on to do the newsletter. Zoe has instantly added like personality and character to the newsletter, which used to just be selling people shit and giving them pre-sales to tickets. And over the last couple weeks, we've been talking to a sponsor about sponsoring Zoe's Corner 3 newsletter. And we have a sponsor.
Here we go. Wow.
You can see it on YouTube. There you go.
It is
Philly.
A vodka sponsor.
Yep.
We are expanding our alcohol repertoire.
Yeah. So another local business, Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, Philly. Officially, it's Federal Distilling, but the bottle is dope. It's like riveted, I think you would say.
I love a rivet.
Rivet. I love Stateside. So Stateside is going to sponsor the Corner 3 newsletter. I wanted, and I love that they're local because when they shut down all the state stores, the local distilleries were the only place that you could get hard liquor. And God bless the local local distilleries.
They have a shop by Evil Genius, right?
I don't know where Evil Genius is.
I looked it up. It's one of the few places I've drank in actual Philly.
Oh, well, so they're normally they have like the tasting room or the tap room that's open that isn't now, but you can still do curbside pickup there. So a couple of things. First of all, I was talking with Zoe and I was talking to Clement from Stateside. I was like, we should do a Zoe shirt for the newsletter for people who subscribe to the newsletter to kick it off. So I was talking with Zoe today about what to put on the shirt, and we decided on his pinned tweet, which is, your biggest fear as a man should be getting roasted in a public setting by a group of Philadelphia school children. Where are you going in that nut-ass tie, old head, will have you doing deep self-reflection.
Yeah, I think it's the first tweet I ever saw of Zoe's.
It's such a good tweet.
Fall in love with him.
So we're going to put that text on a T-shirt with our logo and the Stateside logo, and then we're going to give them away if you're a newsletter subscriber. So go to writesrickysanchez.com/newsletter, sign up. Thank you, Stateside Vodka. I love that you guys are a part of us. Very cool. We're going to do a Ricky label on vodka at some point, which will be awesome. So Stateside Vodka, Philly's #1 craft spirit, handcrafted, distilled 7 times, and get this, Mike, fucking gluten-free.
Yes, sir.
Certified gluten-free.
Oh, I told Alyssa we had it, and she asked if it was gluten-free, and I looked it up on the website, and I was like, yes, it is.
Yeah, Stateside.
Their place is at Cecil B. Moore and Hancock Street, which is a couple blocks from Evil Genius.
There you go. 0 sugar. This is not the giant bottle. This is the 750, but available in the Magnum 1.75 liter bottle. Stock up for Labor Day at your local fine wine and spirit store. This is actually where I got this one because they didn't send me any yet. So I went to the state store here in Springfield.
That's exciting.
Or go to statesidevodka.com. You can get home delivery in the Philly 5-county area.
And we're, drink safely and responsibly, and we're having a therapist come on in a second.
Yes.
But, it's going to be a boozy off season for sure.
Yes. Like my therapist told me, when I told her I was drinking more because of the pandemic, she was like, are you getting like hammered every night? I was like, no, I'm like having a drink. She's like, be easy on yourself. She was like, it's okay. So, and be easy on yourself when we talk about our gambling sponsor later as well. So, I feel like we got to go right to the Elton Brand.
Wait, did you see? What? Sorry, I retweeted it, but then he deleted the tweet. Did you see Jonathan Simmons' tweet?
Oh yes, finally fired his ass.
Yeah. Jonathan Simmons, who the Sixers acquired in the Markelle Fultz fake trade, and
so good.
His body was barely cohesive with itself, and couldn't have been more useless. Did look like at one point a player in San Antonio.
Yep. But
that
didn't look like it here.
No, I think that was the end of his NBA career, as so many Sixers were, and then here we are, him coming out of the grave to then kick some dirt onto another person's grave.
Just so unnecessary.
Solid, really good showing, Jonathan Simmons, and then deleting it some hours later.
So yeah, by the time it had been liked and retweeted 7,000 times, it's such a great tweet, an all-time tweet. So Elton Brand, okay. So Elton Brand does a press conference today, a day after. Here's Josh Harris's statement. We are really disappointed, and we know we let our fans down. It's unacceptable and important that we all hold ourselves accountable. We're going to do a real assessment of how we got here and expect that more changes will need to be made in order to get this organization back on track. This will be a crucial offseason for us, and we need to get it right. Now, I want you to make no mistake. They would have loved to just fire Brett Brown and move on.
100%.
But they weren't able to because we're all so fucking noisy. So I want you to understand, as you're listening, you need to keep at it. So Elton does his presser today. So I actually, in a front office, I have no problem with Elton. Elton is smart. People like him. He has a bright future. But it seems like what they've done. It's funny.
Who do you mean by people like him?
Like players like him, agents like him, teams like him. Like, he is very well liked. Like, you remember, he was going to be hired as assistant GM for the Hawks before he got here, which I'm sure he wishes he took every day of the week. And by the way, if they're letting him, like, he said a lot of things in the press conference, like that we've said for a year now, that the collaboration thing doesn't work.
Saying the collaboration thing. I have a couple points to make before we get saying the collaborations doesn't work is a total acknowledgement that he reads everything. He reads a lot of people's stuff, and they always have. But I wasn't sure if Elton was, because he's a former player, and it's like, well, maybe he doesn't give a shit because he's, he was an all-star for a long time and he's a good player. What's he doing reading people's shit? But that is an indication Elton is reading. He's seeing the collaboration stuff. He's knowing that it's being trashed. Total joke. My second thing is when you said before the. Elton is well liked, obviously well liked by the players. He and Embiid were teammates, so that's not surprising. It's generally, former players in the front office and in coaching roles are generally more well liked than guys who don't command as much respect. But as far as other agents or other teams go, they might like him because he's easy to fleece. Like that to me is not a hard. I loved Vlade. Oh man, Vlade, what a man! He's the coolest.
But that's assuming that he was the one being fleeced. Like,
for sure.
I keep saying that, and this isn't me like everybody's like, oh, you hit him on the podcast. Like, I don't think Elton Brand should be running this whole thing. Like, he is clearly not experienced enough to be in charge of all of this.
And said almost that.
Yeah, he said he didn't know what he was doing. Yeah, he said he didn't know what he was doing last year.
Tough thing to say.
Yeah, at least he's honest, and he is probably honest to a fault. But here's the problem: is that Scott O'Neill, the CEO of the team, like, this is what happened here. Scott O'Neill is the conduit to the owners for the team. He tells them what's going on.
He's like the gatekeeper.
Right. He thinks he's a GM, basically.
Yeah.
So he's the one that, like, he's responsible for, in a lot of ways, for Sam not being here, whatever.
He's got a real Denethor vibe, if you're any Lord of the Rings fans.
I'm not.
Check it out. It's fine. It wasn't for you, but it's a real Denethor vibe. He looks like him. They dress similar. He's going to jump off of a long, pointy building. It's fine.
So he is like, he was, buddy with Brian, whatever. But he doesn't want anybody powerful in the front office because then he can't get his tentacles into it.
Right.
And he wants, from two different standpoints, he wants to be able to do it so he can market the team how he wants, so they can put people on waiting lists to buy season tickets that aren't really sold out.
Brilliant.
And then and he also wants to have a say in basketball ops.
And he's wanted this for 7 years.
And the thing is, this whole setup, this whole collaboration bullshit gave him, because nobody in the front office had the hammer, he had more of a hammer than anybody else. And then the other two in the front office, Ned Cohen and Alex Rucker, were basically what I perceived was they were going to give the job to one of those guys because they wanted to keep all of them. But Elton is the best forward-facing of all of them.
Yeah.
So they were like, he'll take it, but he definitely did not have say. And you could see by the press conference, because he's like, now I'm going to have say.
Yeah, he couldn't say that. Before, it was kind of bullshit. Everyone gave me the title and was like, yeah, Elton's the boss. Everyone kind of like snickered behind the scenes. And now he's like, well, you made me the boss, so I guess I'm either going to act like the boss or you fire me. So this is now what's happening.
Right. So
what a joke. They kept Brian's friends.
Yes.
So that they could just like have another human punching bag. It was Brett and now it's Elton.
Then it was Elton.
It's like just a total, like, these shadowy dickheads that just insist on passing the blame to everyone and just like texting reporters over and over again. Just like group texting saying that we are well respected. Just like copy and paste. We are a well respected front office. Just like, who are they saying? Just like blaming everyone all the time.
Right.
Well, they may as well wear a wire. Like, what assholes?
Well, and all these leaks all come from them. All come from them. They all come from them.
There was the Matisse line in Chris Haynes' piece, I think, comes from Matisse's agent.
Oh yeah. Well, Matisse. Well, remember, didn't he go to Chris Haynes once before?
The assistant coaches. That one. Yeah. There's just so many dumb things. There's so many dumb things all the time. Keep coming up with new dumb things.
So I want to be clear. Like Rucker's got to go. Cohen's got to go. And to your point about when we thought we got rid of the guy who cared about what people were saying on Twitter and podcasts, all I'm going to say is we fucking didn't. Like, that's all I will say is we didn't. Do not shut up until Elton's staying. That's the thing. He ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But don't shut up until the other guys are gone. That's all I will say.
Do you think that they're going to bring in, because they should fire... Look, I have nothing against Elton, and I do think that he was just shoved forward to sort of talk to the cops at the party when he wasn't the drunk one, and he was still took the blame. But everyone has the stink on them now. Everybody from ownership on down has total stink of there's no reason we should trust you to run this ship in any sort of logical, smooth way. So I would ask that everyone be gone. Last podcast, maybe regretfully called for the chefs to be fired. And
could you take that back?
I can't. I have to do it. I have to stand by me. I never take away a take. The chefs need to go. They start.
There are many people with the team who I think should keep their jobs.
Not the chefs. I blame them for Zaire. Do you think that if Elton stays and say a bunch of those guys go, I don't think, you know better than me, but it doesn't seem like Scott O'Neill's going. It seems like he's got his claws in so many different places at once.
I think everything's on the table except for Elton.
Okay.
I think everything's on the table, and
including Scott.
I think everything's on the table except for Elton.
Doesn't he have more jobs working for?
He does.
Josh and David.
But remember, we have that Chaika guy, the hockey guy, that we talked about. I just think it's on the table, and I thought it probably was on the table a year or two ago. I think everything's on the table.
Just give me a Succession spinoff about the Sixers. Just let me watch it. I see it.
But you can't stop. You can't get bored, because that's what people like this want. They want you to get bored and move on. You just can't get bored and move on. I don't think Elton's going anywhere. And what I would also say is a lot of Elton's, and we can go through some of the quotes, but a lot of when he would say, because people were reacting negatively when he said he wanted basketball guys in there, yada, yada, yada.
Who'd you take that to mean?
That he was talking about Alex Rucker.
Not Scott.
No.
Okay.
Alex is I'm not saying he doesn't understand basketball, but the perception of him is that he is a numbers guy, and that he is I had heard that everyone puts who knows whose choice anything is after it happens. Everybody wants credit when it's good. Nobody wants credit when it's bad. So I'm not going to say he was Horford, but when he was talking about analytics, I believe he was talking about Rucker, and then he very clearly, somebody asked if Scott O'Neill was going to be part of the coach search or something.
Who asked that?
I don't know. And because I saw hold on, I have the quote somewhere. It is from, because Kyle Neubeck, Brand on whether Scott O'Neill will be involved in the coaching search. Quote, "To be clear and frank, we feel the collaboration days didn't work too well. I will be leading this search."
Yeah.
I do appreciate the power grab. I will say that from a...
Everybody else is grabbing.
Yeah. All right, some other quotes.
Do you think that if they say everyone's gone but Elton?
Yep.
All the chefs, parking attendants, everybody.
They don't even work for the Sixers.
They're gone.
Parking attendants.
They're gone.
Okay.
Elton's the only one left for a few days until everybody gets worked in. Elton is parking the cars. Elton is cooking the food. He's the only guy there. He's turning the lights on and off.
Bugs Bunny. Yeah.
Do they hire someone above Elton in a Andy McPhail, Matt Klentak type of way?
So I don't think that's impossible.
That seems dumb again.
I agree.
Why are we doing this?
Well, they don't do anything
Elton
right.
is going to hire the coach, and then they're going to hire someone above Elton who has already hired the coach. Like,
Right.
what's the order? It's just scrambled.
Yeah, I think they're gonna sink or swim with whoever Elton hires. That's my guess. Is like Elton will be. To your point about everyone liking Elton because they can rip him off.
Sure. Vladdy even before everything happened, Vladdy got cheered at the Buffalo Wild Wings lottery party. You can just tell. Somewhere in like friggin' Minnesota or Sacramento, wherever, Phoenix, some bar of fans is just cheering Elton Brand out of the blue. It's the same thing happening.
Elton's the new Vlade. I just don't know, as much as I would enjoy him being here, I just don't know how he, having never been an assistant GM, having barely worked in a front office, having really his only vision of a front office being a total clusterfuck.
Mm-hmm.
This is such a, and this specific time and this specific position, like, here's the other thing, is that like, not that we want to trade Ben or Joel, but you get a guy in here who has a fresh start, he's going to look at everything and go, all right, what's the right fucking thing? Not what's the thing to salvage this, what's the right fucking thing?
Totally.
And even if Elton was qualified, there's a lot of like, it's like tainted.
Yeah.
You know? So
Zach Lowe had a podcast with our boy Yaron Weitzman, and Zach mentioned something that I hadn't thought about, in that the ownership just likes to move and shake. Mm-hmm. And they like to make trades and deals and call in the deals, and then high five after the deals. Fucking president deals, like, what a cool thing. And so
remember, it was Josh Harris on the phone with the Timberwolves owner finishing up the Jimmy Butler deal.
That's right. So I think there is always something to be said for like jazzing it up. Even when they hired Hinkie, Hinkie came in and was like, yeah, I would clean up everything. Mm-hmm. I would probably trade Drew because he's your only piece, and he makes you guys slightly better above water, but everything else should go, and you should bottom out. And so they were like, that appealed to them. And so I think I do worry, because Elton said today he doesn't want to break up Ben and Joel. He wants to build around them. What a fucking novel concept. I do worry if they do hire someone over Elton at some point, and that person comes in and is like, yeah, I'd fucking trade one of Ben or Joel, or Ben because he's not going to shoot, or Joel because he's, you can't trust him to be healthy long term or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, there's the muddled messaging again. Like, what are we doing?
Well, and by the way, even if Elton is thinking about trading one of them, God bless him for not telling everyone like Brian Colangelo did when he told, you remember the famous, when he's like, well, we got to trade one of these centers.
Yeah.
That worked out well.
Yeah, I forgot. Someone said it. Shit. I forget who said it, but it might have been on the Zach Lowe podcast again. I've just been consuming too much lately. But the process, like starting with 18 straight centers and ending with 18 straight power forwards and centers. So here we go.
I'm gonna look for some other quotes just to see what we got here. I'm not looking to trade Ben or Joel. I'm looking to complement them better. Thank you to Derek Bodner for writing down the quotes, and Kyle Newbeck. I'll also be conducting an evaluation of the front office and infrastructure in place. Change can and will be uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Like, I appreciate that. Do you think they're just going to hire Lance Pearson to run everything?
Just rotate them back. Bring in all the old process guys.
Yeah. It's a difficult day for the organization. We had high expectations and goals, and simply put, we failed. We're strong in a strategic and analytic standpoint. Get some more basketball minds in here, but all options are open.
I agree with a lot of that, and then you just it becomes a basketball analytics argument again. It's like, it's both. It's always both. There should be someone. You shouldn't brand yourself one or the other because
he's
it's
just
both.
But he's saying both. He's saying we need more of the other kind in there too.
But everyone should be both.
Yes. Well, there are some people who are like, it's not like Paul DePodesta was a baseball guy. He was just a numbers guy that the guy above him knew how to use.
That's fair. Okay.
It's just about like the manager. You just got to have the manager.
But I don't think in the same way that like building a team, you have like, okay, one shooter, he does nothing else. one big man can't do anything aside from stand in the paint. Like having guys with multiple skills, like the friggin' Raptors do, of like guys who can you can play inside out, whatever. It's probably nice to have more than just the one person overseeing things who's like, okay, let me get my analytics guy, let me get my other guy, let me get my chef guy. I don't know.
You just want to fire the chefs.
I'm really coming after this. I don't know any of the chefs personally, but I do. Yeah, I'm firing them. Sorry.
Well, actually, you're here, so we'll say hi to you now. Hi, Thea.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Hello.
So you have titles. Let me read off your titles, Thea Gallagher, and you can check us if these are correct.
Okay, cool.
Sixers fan. Yes.
Big time. Yep.
Okay. Ricky listener.
Yep. Big time.
Clinical psychologist.
That too.
Assistant professor at the University of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. These are going in the right order, so this is good.
And director of the outpatient clinic at the Center for Treatment and Study of Anxiety.
Yes. All true.
Wow.
What are you doing here with us?
Honestly, this feels like a big moment. I'm sweating. It's a lot going on. This is a big moment for me.
Well, I'm sweating because I turn off the air conditioning vent because it's right over the microphone. So I'm usually sweating mid-pod.
Okay, good.
How are let's start it up because we got a lot to get to.
Let's do it.
How are you doing mentally about this team?
Not well. I mean, I feel like
It's good to hear. I'm glad we're starting there.
We're processing through it, but I think I made the huge mistake of I was like, you know what? I think why COVID has sucked so bad is because there's no Sixers, right? Watch every game with the whole family. It's a big thing. And then they came back, and now they're gone again, and my mental health is worse. Yeah. So I think we've all been on that journey just thinking it would be better when they came back, and it's, huge mistake.
You know what I forgot while sports were gone? When they came back, I was like, oh my God, sports are so long. The games are so long. I didn't remember how long they were. It just seems like they go on forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think any of us are doing well. So actually, we'll kind of go backwards. We'll sort of go back from where I was on the last pod, or within the last couple of pods. We were talking about how most of being a sports fan seems like anxiety filled. Like it doesn't seem like there's a ton of joy. It's mostly, maybe that's just us, but it seems like it's anxiousness.
Yeah.
What would A, do you agree with that? And then B, what do you think people get out of it if that's the case?
So I've been thinking about this, and I think as something of a scientist myself, I'm like, what's the control? Because I'm not really friends with people who aren't Philadelphia sports fans, and I come from a long line of cynical Philadelphia fans. Sure. So you kind of wonder, is this just us, or is everybody as anxious as we are and as self-hating and cynical? So if it is writ large, I think that there's probably, a lot of anxiety across the board. But I think in Philadelphia, we're specifically cursed. So
I guess I sort of think of it, I was trying to think of the same way I enjoy a horror movie, that feeling of dread all the time. Is there a positive of the anxiety that we feel when we're doing it? I can't figure out what. Look, this is my career now, right? I work in sports radio, I do the podcast, all that kind of stuff. If I'm just a person whose job is not like Mike, a person whose job is not part of this at all, I can't figure out what is the attraction?
Well, I think a number of years ago, I remember going to preseason games, with Michael Carter Williams, and it felt okay, but we're headed somewhere. Mm-hmm. We're getting somewhere. People just need to get better. Everything's going to be better. And then there was so much hope.
Yeah.
And then we've kind of been killing it. So and then it's been this slow burn, I feel in the last 2 seasons, where all of a sudden it's the writing's on the wall, but we're still holding on to that hope. But now I feel this is really bad.
Yes. Slow burn is a nice way to say it, because it does feel at this point my whole body is on fire all the time I watch it. Do you feel so you listen to this podcast, how am I doing to your ear? Spike is a pretty even-keeled guy, but I just
I've been worried about
You have?
I really have. I told Spike today, I was like, I was about to call the cops and send out a wellness check.
No.
Like,
This is because we do the podcast like right after the game, and like notably, like right after the Kawhi shot went in, like when I recorded the podcast on the ground because I couldn't move. After I do it, it's a kind of like an exercising of like my whole thing, and then afterwards I'm like usually okay after. But it doesn't sound great.
No, I was honestly, when you got apathetic, I was really when I was worried, because that's like it's a one thing if you're upset and you're sad, but then when we had apathy, I was like, oh no, we gotta like call the cops. This is bad. But then at the very end of that last pod, I feel like you were getting like a little bit. You're talking. Some hope was in your language. Yeah. So I've been studying you, and I think you're gonna be okay. Wow. But I haven't worried about you.
What a treat this is.
Yeah. Well, what people don't hear is the 10 seconds before every pod we record after a playoff loss, is Mike signs on and he goes, can we make this like a 34-minute one or something?
This is like a short one.
It's every one. And then 19 minutes into his first rap, I realized we're never going to finish in 34 minutes.
Yep. Well, it's good. He's processing through it. You got to process through these emotions, you know?
Do you, are there, I guess from a bigger perspective, this has been, my therapist has said that people are, like, this is a rough time for people, obviously, sports included. I imagine you've seen a wave of people, like, suffering from all jokes aside, suffering from anxiety, suffering from depression, like you've probably never seen before.
Oh, yeah. I tell people a lot, like, I've never been busier, and it's, like, both, like, a good thing and a bad thing. I think sometimes I'm like, did it take a global pandemic to make people realize, like, mental health is real and important and needs to be addressed? Just from a kind of a procedural perspective, they've lifted a lot of these restrictions for telehealth that we used to have as therapists. So now you can kind of have a lot more access to therapists, which is really great. But yeah, seeing a lot of people struggling with anxiety and depression. I think, a lot of the media is focusing on, COVID and the physical, toll that it's taking on people and deaths and things like that. But there are a lot of people suffering with anxiety and depression, suicidal ideation, people who maybe had subclinical anxiety, who never had anxiety before, are like, what is this? Or like, I think I just did a media piece about like Michelle Obama being like, do I have low grade depression? Like, I think people are kind of like, I'm feeling things and I don't know, I'm not feeling great, or I'm a little more irritable, I have like less motivation, and starting to realize like, oh man, maybe something like kind of bigger is going on here. Yeah.
A lot of people have reached out to say kind of similar things that you said to me of like, hey man, you sound pretty alarming. After the podcast, you're firing a lot of people. You're talking about crazy stuff. You're injuring Celtics people. Everything okay? I just want to say I'm fine. Everybody's going through a tough time. So maybe it's a little worse because of the pandemic, but I'm, no worse than everybody else, at least to my, damaged mind.
Well, you're doing one thing really important, which is that you are talking about it.
Sure.
Because that's the problem. When people internalize and isolate, and that's what, during this pandemic, for a number of reasons, people have had to be more isolating and things. But I think even just I think it's a great example that you call and you're like, can we make this pod 34 minutes? And then you get to talking and you're like, you're getting it out, you're processing it, you're connecting with your emotions. So even if it feels bad, it feels good. So that's what I think a lot of therapy is about, or even just talking to people in your support system, get that out there, process through it. You're going to feel better in the long run. Trust the process.
Sure.
Do you, this sounds simple, aside from, hey, if you're feeling bad, call somebody or get help, are there like things that work for people that, are there tricks that you give people that if you're, because not everybody, it's easy to say go get help, but a lot of people just won't. Is there something that you tell people hey, if you're feeling bad, do this, or here's something that get a hobby, or not to, are there things you tell people aside from that, aside from talk about it?
Yeah, definitely. One thing I've really been focusing on with people during this COVID era is being really intentional with your time and what you're doing with it. Even with an upcoming election cycle, we know from the last one that there's a lot of anxiety and stress that people have, even being on social media around that, kind of information between family and friends. So like, I think monitoring your social media, monitoring your news watching, taking time away from your phone, thinking about things that are good coping strategies. So if like watching the Sixers is complicated, but we don't have that right now. So what other things can you do that help you to like get out of your own head or just kind of help you to focus on other things? Talking to friends and people that you trust and people in your support system. I also, encourage people to do a lot of like non-judgmental observation. So just kind of thinking about like, how am I feeling? What's going on today? At the end of the day, maybe just noting down what went well, what didn't go so well, what did I do that maybe impacted how things went well. And also just observing your like emotions. If you're realizing like I'm more irritable, I don't want to be around people, I don't want to talk to people, I'm snapping at my kids more. Sometimes the beginning piece is just assessing whether you're feeling not great, and then what are you going to do about it. And like my work, my like kind of real focused work is like having people like face their fears. So like I do a lot of exposure therapy. So if you're afraid of something, like I kind of help you to do that. So like maybe like for Mike, he might have to like watch the Kawhi shot, like, but like maybe he starts with like the first 2 bounces and then we move up to like the 3 or the 4, but kind of might have to process through those emotions. Yeah. But like that's something, if there's something that you're kind of like you don't want to think about, you don't want to face, sometimes we have to like face it. So if it's snakes or the Kawhi shot, we gotta face those things eventually.
Watch the Sixers like waste 20 seconds of a shot clock regularly, just standing around, all that stuff. If you were, say the Sixers hired you to be like mental health specialist and communicating and basically tasking with either publicly or privately, like, hey, we want you to like make these guys like each other. Like, is there, or at least talk through their issues? Like, how do you think you would do that? And what do you, like, sort of armchair psychologist, do you think the issue is with, like, the culture around the team?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure in sports just generally, there's got to be a lot of ego management, like you're trying to puff yourself up and then you're trying to like find your place. I think it would ultimately like come down to like, kind of a better together kind of mentality and like, how do we do this and how do we level the playing field by like, maybe like they all talk about what they're not good at and then like give each other encouragement for the things they aren't good at. And like, because I think they're probably all the hardest on themselves and then they're getting yelled at for the things that they're not good at. So, that's one thing I would do. A lot of team building exercises, make them like try to get across a lake, like holding hands or something. I think maybe just like, just get in a circle, talk about your childhood traumas. Like they've all been through some shit, like maybe talk about like what it's been like and connect on those levels. I think finding the things that you can connect on rather than the things that you don't, are would be a good thing. But I feel like there's a lot of mystery about what they're really, the tensions really are, and I think it'd be nice to get into that, like what's really going on.
Because do you think like if Embiid and Simmons, the 2 best players in the team, they're not the highest paid players in the team, but they're universally seen as the most important,
and all we have left.
They're all we have left. And neither of them are like vocal guys that are like bring everyone together type guys. And do you think that for like a group to succeed, if the 3rd or 4th or whatever best player is the one that's saying like, come on, everybody do it, but the top people are still not kind of jiving with that, do you think that that's an obstacle to like group success?
Absolutely, and I feel like when we've had some of those other mature players or feel like less ego, like Dario, and I think like it just felt like, okay, these are like kind of more of the parental figures and like those are the naughty children. And so it would maybe be like really great to get Embiid and Simmons in a room and we're just like, we're going to work through this until we get to the other side. We're going to get it all out there. Like, what do you hate about him? What do you hate about him? Like bring all the things that you've been wronged. Let's work through it and like get to the other side. Cause I feel like that's really what we need to get to the next level is we need them to like mature, combine forces and be like, let's go do this. I just don't know, you kind of wonder if, Embiid would be able to do that. Like, does he really want that? Because I think with some of his like Instagram stuff, it just makes you wonder if he's kind of always.
Well,
I think he's conflicted. He's a complicated individual. I think he wants it so bad, and then he gets frustrated, and then he does things that I think break down connection and morale. So, finding a way to get him to like really like, join those forces with Simmons, I think would be great.
Well, I mean, he uses social media like young people use social media. Like I don't know. I feel like I see a lot of people who are in their teens and in their 20s saying, doing these, sort of passive aggressive or trying to send a message because they don't want to have. The hardest thing to have is hard face-to-face conversations. Like the hardest thing to do is to be honest, is to look. It's much easier to say to me and Mike when Joe comes on the podcast, well, if Ben shoots, it'll open things up for us. Rather than if he looked at Ben in his face and said, it would mean a lot to me if you did this. Like nobody wants to have those conversations. And I feel like Joel more than anyone else on the team actually seems to act. He's sort of mysterious in what he really thinks, but social media wise, he seems to act the way that young people act on social media, I guess. Is sort of
and I think that he has so much power if he could probably do all of that if he could get there. I think I have like betrayal trauma last year from his exchange with like Jimmy Butler on Instagram. Like I remember being like heartbroken. I was like, like what does this mean? Like you think of him as such like a diehard Sixer, and I think that stuff like over time, even if it's like emotions or it undercuts like that trust and like connection. And I think it would be it would be amazing if there was a way to kind of like get it, put it like have a clean slate and really like join forces, especially because the city of Philadelphia is just so behind him. Well, they have been, but
yeah.
When if you think so, obviously Brett got fired. The only coach that Ben and Joel have had their whole careers, which is pretty rare for guys that are drafted that high. Usually, there's a lot of cycling in and out if you look at the top of the draft for a while. And so this is the first time that they're having a new coach. What would you look for in a new coach? There's a lot of people talking about like you need like a taskmaster who is the one to really like hold them to account, and the word accountability is being thrown around a lot. What kind of characteristics would you want in a coach for those kinds of guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about like coaching science. I'm now going to go on like a deep dive of like what's effective. I think some people like it seems like Brett didn't have like the total like scream at you, like, demoralize you kind of thing. It seems like he had a great relationship with both of them from what I can understand. I think that's super important. Somebody who feels like they both are acknowledged and heard, because like I think you kind of have to have someone who's really good at balancing both of that. And I think they're getting, into their 20s. And so you wonder if there's a level of maturity. It might be nice, like, if they have a new coach where they kind of take the ownership for the team rather than the coach even. Like, I wonder if that's going to shift the narrative where it's more about like, hey, like, this is now, like, we're getting past that we're like young guys who are really talented, like that we're older and we want to make a name for ourselves in the NBA and in basketball. And like, maybe they can find somebody who like, that they can kind of be together with.
Yeah, I wonder if losing Brett as sort of the shield, he's been the shield for the team, but he's also the shield for those guys. I wonder if that will be some level of a wake-up call, or at least some level of like a moving on. And I'm not like,
right.
I think there's the kinds of things that happen in like The Last Dance and MJ and being like psycho things that in sports that get very like hyper masculinity that gets lionized in this kind of thing, but. So I'm not that guy, but I would love the idea of in a huddle, end of the game, or at some crucial moment, whoever the coach is, like it's Ben and Joel running the huddle, and then being like, this is the best here. This is what it is. Like them like being more vocally active, and so it's more of like a conversation because they know it so well and they trust each other and they know like here's how we're going to attack this thing, and it becomes a more, I don't want to say collaborative, any other word but than collaborative. Better way to just take ownership of it and really feel like we're in this together and this is how we're going to accomplish this thing.
Yeah,
right, because on the face of it, it kind of feels like sometimes like Ben is like the dutiful adolescent, and then like, if we're like a family, and then like they, Embiid's like the problem child a little bit. But like, I think if they could, I don't think Embiid's gonna do well with like a taskmaster who's coming in and like, telling him exactly what to do, especially at this stage in his career. I think you'd need someone who's going to facilitate the egos, but also like give them ownership, but also like have like kind of call them to something a little bit greater than what they've been doing.
I had a coach question and a fan question, but are you allowed with your job to sit here when we talk about a sponsor, as long as okay, you sure? Even though that sponsor is don't call therapists. No, I'm just kidding. The sponsor is our presenting sponsor. Look, as part of my therapy is Draftkings Sportsbook. Draftkings Sportsbook is the presenting sponsor of the Ricky. I have several open bets from the NBA season. By the way, Mike, the Ricky $500 free Hostage Orlando pool can't close until Covington's done playing, because one of the questions was who has a higher three-point percentage, him or Thibault. So it hasn't closed yet.
There we go.
Yeah, and I have several open NBA bets.
So do I.
I'm
riding Houston and Denver from before the season.
Yeah, I have. What do I have? I have Bam Adebayo as most improved player. Ben Simmons, Defensive Player of the Year, did not win that.
Did not. Fourth.
That was,
I guess we've talked about it now.
Yeah, and then Giannis MVP. Oh, and Raptors winning the conference. I still have. Anyway, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook, the leader in one-day fantasy sports, celebrating the return of sports by giving away up to $100 million in prizes to all of their customers, including one lucky winner who will get $1 million cash. Here's all you have to do. I just looked at this on the app. Claim your share of up to $100 million in instant giveaways. All you got to do is download the app, use promo code RTRS, and then enter the DraftKings Survivor Pool. It says right here, get your free share of up to $100 million instantly. If you're on the YouTube, you can see.
Pretty good.
I'll top prize goes. Yeah, I would take it too.
That would, I will say, solve my low-grade depression. I would say that.
Yes, I think so.
I'm confident in that.
The top prize, the $1 million prize, goes to one winner, but everyone who signs up and enters gets an instant bonus prize of at least $5 when they enter. I wonder, can I enter? See what my instant prize would be? Play free. It's going to take a minute. I'll tell you what my prize is next time. While you're in the app, you can bet on every different sport, and you can do the casino games too. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code RTRS to claim your share of $100 million in instant cash giveaways and put yourself in the running for the $100 million cash top prize. That's promo code RTRS to get your share of $100 million in prizes only at DraftKings. Must be 21 or older, Pennsylvania only, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Other terms and conditions and restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, so we're just talking about the coach, right? So one of the things that made me nervous was the first name that came out there is Tyronn Lue. Tyronn Lue is represented by the same agent as Ben Simmons. And like, how important do you think it would be that those guys, especially given the dynamic of it all, see this guy as like specifically fair right now? Like, it seemed like a problem to me that he would be represented by the same thing. Do you think that is something that would be important?
Absolutely. I think that we've seen that's like just like really important. And I think that, Embiid is emotionally sensitive, appropriately so. Like, I think when people are like, I think he cares a lot. But I also think, he wants to feel valued. And I think, to be at this level of sports, you have to have a big ego. You have to believe in yourself enough to kind of keep doing this. So I think there's going to have to be somebody who feels super fair. It's like in marriage therapy, like if you go in and like the therapist is like favoring, the husband or the wife, it's not going to work. You got to favor both people, and you have to make both people feel like you're in their corner. And I think just starting, even if it's kind of benign, I think that would be problematic. We need someone who's going to even, just feel really balanced for both players.
Mike, would you do
they
it?
should interview them together, and like maybe that's how they'll bond.
I like that.
That they interview the coaches and they decide on a coach together.
Yeah, them just being little like dorky
plan.
suits, and they're like, okay,
Yeah.
here we are. I like that.
Maybe both in tuxedos.
We leave
like
it up
in
to Ben Simmons and Embiid, but they have to decide together, and they have to. It's like a jury,
Yeah,
you know.
we have to
they have
agree.
to come to this
I
conclusion.
think that's nice.
together.
I think it's really nice. Elton did say he's going to talk to them and see what they want in a coach. So I think that's like involve them in the organization.
Yeah.
And freaking give them an ownership stake. Here's a point in ownership.
Exactly.
Like you guys own the team now. Stay. Make this work.
My last question, I don't know if Mike had anything else, but my last question was, so you're a Sixers fan, not you, but like a person, a Sixers fan, is like devastated by them getting swept, devastated by how the organization's been run, goes on Twitter, just makes himself even madder by arguing with me or somebody else about the same fucking thing. What do you tell a person that is in like a cycle like this with something that they do in theory enjoy, but seems to only give them like pain?
And if it helps, you could direct that directly to me.
Yes.
Yeah. Step away from Reddit. I mean, I think like it's like, so you're already there. You're getting there where you're going to find hope and you're going to start thinking, okay, we're getting rid of people. And so we can dream, we can dream about what could be. And so I think having the hope that like, maybe it's time for a change. And, I think similar to when like the Eagles got so close for so long and then all of a sudden it just felt like, okay, but what, like, it's not enough. And so maybe now we just got to revamp, regroup, and hopefully hold on to the two best players in the league and make something happen. And so I think like, I'm with you guys though. We got to like clear the bench. And hopefully that happens. If that doesn't happen, I think like people are going to have to find other coping. But I kind of think that would give us hope if it's like, all right, we're cleaning house. Like, let's, we still have like 2 core process members. Let's see what we can do with this. So I hope I hold on to hope. And also though, just radically accept like I'm always going to be a Sixers fan. Like that's just like, even if I hate them and I'm like, I hate this, I'm never watching again, I'm going to burn all my stuff, it's at the end of the day, it's in our blood. So we have to just radically accept it and then sometimes lean into the cynicism of it all and kind of enjoy that too.
Yeah, I think that is a part of my and like our identity as being this is just kind of who we are. We are, I think there are groups of people and fans specifically that would just like ride for their team no matter what. And I take pride in not doing that and holding them account. I care about these idiots, and I will exercise my right to criticize them and scream at them as much as I want.
Yeah, we don't even know who we care about anymore. We're fighting for like an ideal that might not even exist. Yeah.
I think we're going to hold on until like the last piece of the process is gone. So, kind of like at the last lottery party, you would thought like we really had the chance to get something good. And we were all like freaking out. It was like really low end, but we were still like hype. And I was like, this is kind of fun that we're all having a fun time when there's really like a very low chance anything great's going to happen. But I think if we can hold on to that a little bit longer with these 2 great players, then, that could be, what keeps us going. And then we'll finally put it to rest one day.
That sounds nice. I hope they hire you.
Me too.
Do you want to mention your Instagram or anything or your Twitter? Do you want to send people somewhere?
Plug something.
Do you want to plug something?
I mean, I'm Thea Gallagher, SID on Instagram. It's not very exciting, but if you ever need any therapy or help, I'll get you connected to the right people. And if you have Sixers related trauma and anxiety, we'll start a support group. We'll get things going. But I see you, I feel you. It's a hard time for all of us, but we'll get to the next season.
I have to be honest with you, Mike. On one hand, she was very worried about you, which she texted me about that. She was like, is Mike okay? And then on the other hand, as far as Sixers go, she seems like she's as what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't think she can be any help in that particular way because she feels as far gone as any of us.
That's right. I worry about anybody with a real job that cares about this game.
So on Saturday, we're going to go back to Sixers news aside, unless big things happen, we're going to go back to our normal sort of one midweek, one weekend schedule. We have about a zillion emails to get through.
We'll have some coaching updates.
Yeah.
Perhaps. I really hope that they hire at least fire some people in the front office
Before
and
they
then hire
hire
a
a coach.
couple new ones before you hire the coach. Just give me somewhat of a straight line. We don't need to be doubling back and doing weird things out of order.
It's amazing to me when people asked me yesterday and today, so who are you thinking for a coach? I'm like, I got to be honest, I don't even care. Like, what I care is that they get the right people in the front office and let them pick the coach. I don't know who I will say, though, and it's a shame that I see the clutch line as being weird with Ty Lue. Michael Connor has really talked me into Ty Lue. He really believes in Ty Lue a lot.
I mean, first of all, it'd be funny to have Tyronn Lue in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean,
it's sort of as far as the step over Iverson situation, it would feel like a full circle, and we like that thematically. He's a former player who has a lot of coaching experience and won a ring and has dealt with obviously big personalities before. Like, I don't pretend to know. I don't think anybody really does. You can't know what coach is right for what until you've seen it, you know? And so, I think a lot of coaches, even if they've had success somewhere or been unsuccessful somewhere, a lot of that is personnel and just like guys that they have. And so I just look at Dallas. We'll talk about this more, but as a teaser, but I look at Dallas, and Luka's obviously very good and like, you know, very incredibly impressive on this stage, but people compliment his passing a lot, of being so like what the vision he has. And it just, obviously he's good and he makes incredible tweaks and adjusts on the fly, but like, it's just knowing where people are going to be. Like 90% of passing is knowing that your teammate is in the corner.
Be in
like
the right
you're knowing
spot.
your guy is right there, knowing that you're gonna be able to like throw this lob to this guy because he's going to be there on the back end. Like that's almost all of it. And the Sixers this whole season just like never had any spatial awareness, any court awareness. Like all of it trickled down it seeped into every part of the team. And so we need better passers, but we also need better spacing and a coach that will put the right guys in the right places. Because even when Luka's not on the court, Dallas is still just like spreading the court, driving by. Tim Hardaway Jr. makes like one move to get by somewhere. Somebody collapses, kick out to Maxi Kleber, an open three. Like these are not like excellent NBA players. It's like fitting a system, getting guys to buy in, and then just having some level of like, you know, quick decision makers in your team.
Well, it's getting, and you know, it's definitely both too, because you look at, you know, there's somebody that tweeted us earlier that he would trade 5 first-round picks for Carlisle. You know, you look at the 3 years before this year, Carlisle is winning like 30 games. Like, he's a good coach, obviously, but it is both. And, you know, like, I don't know, getting guys to buy in also takes guys that are, I think there's some, when there's a hierarchy, a very clear hierarchy, I think it's easier to get players to buy in. Like, I think everyone on that Dallas team, like, looks to Doncic as, like, the guy. I think on this team, I sort of felt like it is both. It's the coach and the players. Everybody was sort of doing, like, their own thing and didn't think they were being used the right way, and I don't know. What a fucking disaster.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
I would like, you know what I'd like? Obviously hire some people in the front office first. I would like a bunch of interviews.
Yes.
Don't just hire, you know, I mean, I get that there's a clock because these guys might get scooped up, and if you have your guy, you have your guy. But how many times in a row have we had, like, an interview and a half, and then, like, over a long weekend, it's like, we got our guy. We have him. He's gone. He's here. I just feel like since Hinkie hired Brett in that August 7 years ago, almost to the day, it's just been just instantaneous. Like, you know, like there's just a burning a hole in their pants. I got this friggin' job opening and I got to close it right away.
That was the last interview the Sixers did, was the Brett Brown interview.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just been like, my kid. Here's my kid's good.
Well, and
hire my kid.
The other thing is, don't be so scared of losing out on a guy that you don't talk to other guys. Like, there are a lot of coaches.
There's a lot of coaches.
Just don't rush into one. don't let one say, I got this interview over here, Don't panic, go into somebody because you're worried there won't be somebody else. There's always somebody else.
Let us panic. You guys are the ones making the decisions.
Yeah.
You should have the control. And too often it feels like they're the one just spazzing out all the time. This isn't working. We're flailing in the wind. We have to do something quick. Chill out. Jesus Christ, this fucking team, man. Just relax.
I feel like we haven't used spaz out since Jonathan Simmons was here.
Yeah, it's a double Jonathan Simmons. It's a really Simmons episode.
Somebody emailed us that I guess that phrase maybe in Australia, spaz out is not something you're supposed to say. That's offensive. It's funny. They say the C word in Australia like it's nothing. Like it's water.
Don't know it.
All right. Well, we will talk to you this weekend. We'll get to your mailbag questions, and hopefully the front office will be lighter a little bit. A little bit lighter.
What a team. What a time. What a team. Meanwhile, we didn't even get to this because it's still but like the friggin' New York Times report about Josh Harris's business partner having like business ties with Jeffrey Epstein.
Uh-oh.
Like, what are we doing? How's this all the time keep happening? What are we? What random hurricane, natural disaster is just going to keep happening through this team? Just like be a normal organization, you lunatics, for once. God damn it. Ask me the question. I'm going to keep saying shit.
I don't even remember what the question.
The end.
Oh, okay. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah. You know that, guys.
If you don't fuck with me,
then I won't fuck with you.
if you don't fuck with me,
then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me, then I won't fuck with you.
If you don't fuck with me,
Then I won't fuck with you.
but if you fuck with me,
I'm gonna fucking kill you! Time for plan B.